Hello there and welcome to Sebring. As you can hear, we've got cars out on the circuit, which is fabulous because that kind of means that winter and that long motorsport less time is over and we're ready to go racing for 2010. As you can see in the pit lane behind me here, we've got a huge amount of American Le Mans Series teams. Indeed, it's a record car count for this, the Wheels Down Winter Test. Now, there's lots of new faces. We'll be welcoming lots of people back to the series, but there's just as much news off the track as there is on it. So let's start with a big announcement for the series for 2010.
Ladies and gentlemen, what you are witnessing is the official signing of the Patron Spirit Companies with its Tequila Patron brand becoming the official presenting sponsor of the world's premier sports car series, which will now be known as the American Le Mans Series, presented by Tequila Patron.
So from now on, we'll be calling it the American Le Mans Series, presented by Tequila Patron. Let's have a word with some of the principals who've made this deal happen.
I don't know how to put it into words, to be honest. We've been waiting 12 years for this, and the fact that we were able to announce Tequila Patron as the presenting sponsor of the American Le Mans Series literally is the culmination of years and years of effort. And the fact that it came during this challenging economic time just makes it that much sweeter.
Well, we're thrilled. This is kind of an evolution of our motorsports program. We've tinkered a lot. We started in NASCAR, then we were at the IRL, and then we moved over to the American Le Mans Series and sponsored Patron Highcroft, and then now doing Highcroft and Extreme Speed Motorsports. So it's a function of what we're trying to do is getting the most amount of exposure that we possibly can out of motorsports. And it's fantastic to have 3 cars going around the track, but to be honest with you, to have our billboard up on the television screen full time, all the time, is really what we were after. And it was just something that, we've been working on for quite a while.
Now, this time last year here at Sebring, we were talking to Duncan Dayton here about an all-new challenge with a brand new car in a very competitive series. And here we are, effectively a year later, doing virtually the same again, back into the P2 category after a very successful year last year. And a car that you kind of know, but is kind of a little bit different.
Yeah, it's a little bit like deja vu all over again. The P2 Acura is a fantastic car. It's less technically sophisticated than the P1 car, a lot simpler systems. For instance, the hydraulic power steering is gone for this year, so it's easier to work on. It's actually got a little bit better driver feel, so the drivers are really happy and the mechanics are pleased to be working on that. So we're getting ready for the season and still not quite sure what the rules package is going to look like, but when that gets sorted out, we'll be ready for it.
Without giving away any top secret bits and pieces on the car, how much has changed from when you ran the similar chassis, the P2 chassis, right at the very start of HPD and Acura's involvement in sports car racing?
Well, clearly there was a bunch of development initially. Not much has changed since the configuration that Fernandez would have run last year. However, there's a bunch of stuff in the works, depending on what the rules and regulations look like, that will bolt on. Unfortunately, we were hoping to test it here this weekend, but until we know what we're really going to be running, there's no point in having it shipped over. So
we're back in the situation now where effectively we do have a single prototype category. Now, history tells us that that's not necessarily a bad thing for those of you who run P2 spec cars. You guys have won outright with P2 in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the cars are pretty closely balanced, and if there's no diesels, then it's a much more level playing field. Obviously, the P1 cars at places like perhaps Salt Lake or Elkhart or Mossport, where there's some longer straights, are going to have an inherent advantage. But again, depending on restrictor size, weight, fuel capacity, and the size of the rear wing, hopefully there'll be an equalization that allows us all to win a couple of races and have really close racing throughout the season.
I notice you've added a new sponsor to the nose of the car, GE, you've brought in this year. Whatever else is happening in the rest of the world, it seems that sports car racing is still attractive for big name sponsors.
Yeah, I mean, we're absolutely thrilled to bring in GE to the American Le Mans Series. You know, to have not a Fortune 500 or a Fortune 100, but a Fortune 10 company to be involved is really extraordinary. They're fantastic guys. They really like racing. There's a two-pronged strategy for us in that. Obviously, the sponsorship and hospitality component is a big factor for them, but then also their global research lab in New York is not too far down the road from us, and so we're working with them on a technical partnership to bring some new bits and pieces and technology to the car that hopefully will make us more reliable and faster, and provide them a platform where they can test some of their intellectual property in a very discreet but equally competitive way, to perhaps like the Joint Strike Fighter or whatever, but not as difficult an environment, but certainly as demanding a one.
Let's talk about your driving talent for 2010, and I use the word talent.
That's an operative word.
Talent is so appropriate for this.
Yeah, we're absolutely thrilled. Obviously, David's coming back for a fourth year and has been involved with the team from the get-go, really intimately aware of everything that we're doing, and a consummate professional, helps raise the game of everybody who's around him. Simon Pagenaud, coming over from DeFerrin, is obviously a very, very quick young guy. We were pretty afraid of him last year when he got in the car. So to have him on our team as opposed to running against us is a great thing. And then Marino, coming in for the long distance races, obviously has probably the best knowledge of the category, really, having worked with AGR and the Acura program initially, and then Dyson for the last couple of years, first in the Porsche RS Spyders, and then more recently in the Lola Coupes. So he's got an intimate knowledge of what's going on in the different cars, and also a really intimate knowledge of our chief rivals. So he's a great addition to the team, and I think we've got absolutely the best lineup in the paddock, so we're thrilled about that.
You come here effectively as defending champions in the American Le Mans Series after your awesome season last year. I know you're not going to take your eye off the ball of defending that, but you have accepted an invitation to go to Le Mans in France in June, and that is a big undertaking.
Yeah, we don't underestimate the effort that it's going to take. We're thrilled to have the opportunity to go. We obviously won the automatic for winning the championship. Unfortunately, because of going back down to P2, we had to refuse that entry, which was kind of hard to swallow. But that said, we submitted an application for the P2 and were accepted, which we're really thrilled about. It's a huge undertaking. I've been there 4 times as a driver. Obviously, David's won there outright. So some of our guys have some experience, but the vast majority of the crew have never been, so we don't underestimate what that's going to take. That said, however, our first and foremost objective is to repeat as LMP champions in the American Le Mans Series. So we won't risk that endeavor by spending too much time and effort for Le Mans. We'll obviously be as well prepared as we can be, but ultimately our main prize is to try to repeat as champions here.
Adrian Fernandez, delighted to see you here at Sebring. For a time we thought we weren't going to see you in the American Le Mans Series in 2010. Tell us a little bit about how the deal with Aston Martin has come together.
Well, last year when I saw that things were going to be difficult to keep with our team, I started looking for other options, and I say, if I'm going to continue driving, I want to do it good with a good team and a good situation. If not, I'm not going to do it. So I called 3 or 4 of the top teams, and Aston Martin was interested, and we started talking and talked to Lowe's, and they saw the benefit for us to keep the Latin market and all that, and it happened. So I'm happy to be here. So we're going to be here for 3 years. I'm excited about going back to Le Mans in such a fantastic car, and develop and with them for the future. So it's really good,
Just spell out exactly the extent of the program for this year.
For this year, right now, we have 5 or 6 races, I think. We have here Sebring, we have Long Beach, good markets for Lowe's, and obviously Aston Martin too. We have we're going to do Paul Ricard, the 8 hours. We're going to do Silverstone after Le Mans. We're going to do obviously Le Mans, and they're looking into other races. But right now, that's what we have. Next year, we hope to do more races here.
With you not doing a full series anywhere this year, does that in some way take a bit of the pressure off, so that means you can go for outright victories all the time?
Yeah, definitely. And you know, I'm doing all the races Aston Martin is doing in the prototype, so that's the program they have. If they do more, I do more. But yeah, it is. You know, I think you know, next year can be a completely different thing. You know, more focused maybe in a series and maybe more races. But at this point, it's good. We moved to Europe, so I'm very happy there. You know, it's just a little change. I feel at home here. You know, with a lot of friends. Obviously, I miss a lot my team tremendously, but I'm glad 95% of my guys have jobs, and there's 2 or 3 that are still looking, which I'm including Luis Diaz, which I hope he can be back in a car. It's a great asset for any team.
Any news on Luis coming back to sports cars, or do you think he'll be back in open wheel?
He's trying anything, but you know, it's a tough market right now. So you know, we're trying to help him, and you know, hopefully we'll see him soon.
Now, last year you had a sneaky little look at Le Mans and came and had a look almost quietly under the radar. This year you'll be going back with a car that has a chance of an overall podium.
Yeah, definitely. 1 year of experience that I had there was fantastic. I did like 8 hours of driving, so that was really good. And have fantastic teammates, a lot of experience on the team. So, you know, I just have to worry about myself and, you know, do what the team is doing. And, you know, if I can help, I put a little bit of input of my experience will be good, but I can't wait to get in Le Mans.
Well, among the diversity in ALMS prototypes this year, we welcome back the Porsche RS Spider of Saito Sport, and alongside me is Klaus Graf, who is back for another go at this. It's a combined prototype class this year, Klaus, but we know that car has got the speed to be right at the front of the field.
Yes, obviously that's, you know, what we're hoping for. I mean, the Porsche RS Spider proved in the past that it can be very competitive overall, and obviously the IMSA still, you know, needs to kind of determine, you know, in the final analysis how they want to blend the rules. But I'm sure they'll, you know, complete that in the right way. And then we're looking forward to a really good season. I mean, we're, you know, with the Muscle Milk team, we came a long way, and this is going to be our first full-time season, which is obviously a whole different story in terms of preparation and testing. So we look really forward to it.
I was very impressed last year at how Greg got up to speed in the car. He would be the first to admit he's a gentleman driver, albeit with a lot of experience, but he got to grips with the downforce of the car, and his times were very, very consistent.
Yes, I mean, he's doing great. I mean, obviously that's, you know, he has a lot of fun in the car. He loves this RS Spider, so as we all do, obviously. It's a beautiful race car. And if you love a car and you like it to drive, then obviously you perform good, you know. That's just a natural thing. And, you know, he really did great job last year in those races. He kept it on the lead lap, which is basically all that matters, you know, for us to still be in the hunt by the end of the race, you know. And, you know, last year we had a little bit of bad luck, or some of our faults, just down to lack of experience. But otherwise we could have really had a good chance of winning 1 or 2 races, you know. And obviously that's the foundation we want to build on for this year. And you know, Greg was in the car yesterday. He feels comfortable again, and I think we'll have a good season ahead of us.
New challenge this year with a longer race at Laguna Seca earlier in the season as well. You brought Sasha Masson into the team for Sebring, Laguna and Petit Le Mans at the end of the year. That's not exactly trading down as far as drivers is concerned.
No, that's true. I mean, obviously having Sasha back is a tremendous help for us. He's, you know, basically developed this car from the ground up. You know, we saw pictures last year where he's sitting in the wooden tub a couple of years back. You know, and so this kind of his baby, and so there's a lot of input and little things and little hinges he can give us, and with his experience. Especially in the long races, that's really important, you know. Like I would say, especially the 12-hour race at Sebring, it's important to minimize your time in the pits, you know, run clean, don't have any incidents, and you know, the Porsche car should be reliable. And so, you know, we're looking for some good results in the big ones.
And some wins, looking for some outright wins this year. That surely must be the aim now.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we could win 1 race, that'd be really cool, you know. Obviously, there's strong competition. You know, the Highcroft car is basically the main contender for the championship again. That's a top team with a top driver lineup and top operation. So they're going to be the benchmark, but we'll try to be right behind them in the slipstream.
Foremost, I think, in a lot of European minds is the return of Jaguar to mainline sports car racing. Rocket Sports Racing, RSR and Jaguar with Paul Gentilozzi. Paul, tell me a little bit about the genesis of this program. The car clearly is a fantastic looking beast, but how did all this come together through last season?
Well, you know, we approached Jaguar really in 2008, early in the year after the Tata purchase, and we wanted to reunite with them in motorsports. We'd had a successful North American career with them, winning 5 championships here in the U.S. And C.J. O'Donnell, Global Marketing Director, and Michael Driscoll, the Managing Director, were interested. It was just crafting a business deal and then getting everybody in the company to participate. So we've been fortunate. Ian Callum's group came along. Hugo Nightingale and the design guys crafted really a pretty car. Then it was up to us to build it. This is actually a brand new car. This is our second car and the first time it's turned a wheel.
Tell me what parts of the car have you had an influence on? Because quite clearly it was a development period last year. As you say, this is a brand new car, and I see some quite big differences even looking on the outside of the car from what I saw at Laguna Seca last year.
Well, it is a lot different. I mean, it's really a new mechanical design allowed within the ACO regulations. So we're excited to run it. We've been chasing some electrical gremlins here this weekend, as always with a new car. So we're confident that we'll get to speed. People are just going to have to be patient with us.
And whilst obviously the American Le Mans Series is your major focus for 2010, there's a small matter, but again an important matter, of a very, very important invite to a race in France in June.
Well, we're really excited and honored to be going back to Le Mans, and it's particularly important now because this is Jaguar's 75th birthday. So with such a great tradition at Le Mans, we needed to be back there, and we really need to do well.
Well, Scott Sharp has really taken on a big job this year, not only driving, but also putting together a 2-car effort with 2 glorious Patron-sponsored Ferraris. First of all, have you started to regret it at all yet?
No. I mean, I grew up in a family-owned racing team. You know, my dad had his own team for years. As a kid, I, screwed around the shop and worked in the summers there. So it's, I guess, something I've always been familiar with, and it's a great challenge. So I'm just appreciative, obviously, with Patron and Ferrari, for that matter, the opportunity to even get Extreme Speed Motorsports off the ground. And I've been fortunate to hire just some great guys that have been working their tails off for about the last 3 months to get us to this point. So, and are going to continue to have to do so for the next month to get us ready to try to be able to go win Sebring. So, it's exciting and a great challenge. The class is super competitive, as we all know. So our work's cut out for us, but so far it's going well.
In some respects, Scott, was it a natural progression for you to go on to be a team owner and own a couple of cars and run your own shop, as it were?
I guess in a lot of ways, growing up around that, always being very marketing and business oriented within motorsports, but I just never knew if it would fall in line that way. And then when Patron came and asked me to do it, it was a no-brainer. And especially when we knew we looked at a few different manufacturers, and I knew some of the guys at Ferrari, and they seemed very anxious to get a good alignment with a second team. So it all came together quite well for us.
Now, it's not unique up and down the paddock, but it's, I think, particularly Chris Dyson and Rob Dyson, they've run their own teams for many years. But it's not the normal thing to do. Normally, I'd say, particularly in this category, a driver would have enough to think about just with everyone else on the track. So you're really putting yourself into a difficult situation here.
It's definitely more of a challenge, for sure. There's a lot more on my mind, but like I said, I'm at the shop almost every day. And when I'm there, I'm thinking about it from an owner's perspective, from a managing perspective, how do we make the team better each day? When I get to the track, I really have worked pretty hard so far at the different tests to be like just what I've always done as a driver. Worry about what the car's doing, work with the engineers, look at the data, and not worry about any of that other stuff. And I think the team's working hard to keep me doing that, which is good for everybody. So I think if we can do that, it'll be a little bit more of a workload, a little bit more on your mind, but I think we'll be able to balance it.
Right, well, let's talk about the season. You mentioned the competitive nature of GT2. Goodness me, you couldn't have jumped more from the frying pan into the fire. Are you going to be able to challenge, or your cars and you going to be able to challenge for podium, for victory?
I have to say absolutely. I mean, that's the plan. We're all intensely competitive. We didn't get into this to run 5th. Saying that, it's super competitive to think you're going to always, or hopefully always, be beating, you know, several Porsches, 2 Corvettes, 2 BMWs, 2 Jaguars, you know, all the way down the line. It's a tall order to ask anybody in pit lane. But I look at it that I hope to see us certainly challenge in every race. That's number one. Be in a position to be challenging for the podium at every race. I think that's realistic, maybe optimistic, but realistic. And if we can do that, wins will come. If we can do that and have reliability, not make mistakes, have good pit stops, do those things we need to do, the points are going to take care of themselves, and we're going to be able to challenge for the championship. And I think if we can do that in our first year, regardless of how many races we win, or even if we win or don't win the championship, that would be a stellar first year.
Well, it wouldn't be an American Le Mans season without Porsche Motorsports, and I could almost say that about Pat Long, because I kind of associate seeing you at this time of the year, Pat, down here at Sebring. First of all, how was the off-season?
Off-season was short, but that's a good thing. Plenty of development for this coming season. It's kept us busy in the car. Outside of the car, it's always wild. In December, we're over in Germany doing all of our festivities in year-end at Stuttgart. So I'm having a blast, and like you mentioned, being synonymous with Porsche is not a bad thing.
Not at all, but Porsche have really had to up their game in the last couple of seasons. The GT2 category is the most competitive in international sports car racing right now.
Yeah, I mean, GT2 has brought the best out of a lot of top-class teams and drivers. Right now, we want competition. In this economy, it's great to have tons of manufacturers coming into the series and a lot of door-to-door racing. This year is going to be even tougher. We had a little bit of a taste of what it was like last year, Ferrari coming on, having Corvette as an addition, and BMW, of course. But we've been doing our homework, and we want to stay ahead of that curve and win another championship.
The American Le Mans Series, 9 iconic races at fabulous race circuits over mostly endurance distances, really sets it apart as a series.
Yeah, certainly, and now we have a 6-hour race right in the middle of the season, which brings something to the table. You know, we've got to keep ourselves on our toes because everything is always new and exciting. 9 races is a few less than we've had over the last couple seasons, but with that, each and an individual race are going to be worth more points.
How different is the 2010 car from the 09 car?
Quite a few updates, nothing very aesthetic, it's more under the hood. Hopefully we got a little bit more power from the guys in Stuttgart. We're going to need that to keep up with those vet boys, but also we're going to need some tough fenders. So we've been reinforcing all of that stuff because we know it's going to be wild and we always want competition, as I mentioned.
With it being so competitive, do you start the season almost having to think about gathering points right from the very first race? And it's a tough one here at Sebring, 12 hours, but a DNF here will be a disaster for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, if I look at 2009, it was all about being consistent and being better when other people were making mistakes. That's what won us the championship. It wasn't that we were dominant with speed, but we were better on pit stops, better in strategy, and we had a clean driving record. So we need that, but I think the competition is going to be higher, that you have to go for wins all year for 2010. I think it's a different championship than it was last year.
It's never a good sign when there's more of the car and more bits of the car outside of the awning than there are in it. Just after lunch on the second day of the Wheels Down Winter Test, the Aston Martin went hard into the barriers here at Sebring. Premat, the driver, has been released from the infield care centre but sent to hospital for a checkup. What that means is now the Aston Martin mechanics have a long, hard job before they even put the car back in the truck. How far this will put them behind when we get back for the race here on March the 20th, well, only time will tell. And that's when we'll be back here for Motors TV Live for the opening of the 2010 American Le Mans Series. Sebring, Saturday the 20th of March. Join us for the whole race live on Motors TV.